Hi guys, welcome to Algebra 1, Lesson 29. So today's lesson is about algebraic phrases. This lesson is very simple, but what can trick you is when you're unsure with your English about this one. Okay, so this is when we use algebraic letters, numbers, in order to show what you're saying, okay? So you have to listen very carefully and you have to read very carefully what the words are saying. So I want you to look at page 121, lesson 9, and I want you to look at each of those expressions with me. We're going to go down the line so I can explain them, talk you through them, and you can understand why they're written the way that they are. Okay, first you have the sum of a number and 7. Well, sum means to add, so it's written as n plus 7 because you're adding n, the number, and 7. That's showing the sum of the number and 7. Next you have 7 less than a number. Well, that means you're starting with a number and you're finding 7 less than that, so that means you're taking away, which is subtracting, 7. So you have n minus 7 to show 7 less than a number. So anytime you see less than, that means you're subtracting. You're subtracting the first number from the second thing. So you're subtracting the first thing from the second. So notice that the order is reversed. The first thing came last and the second thing in my phrase came first. Then we have the opposite of a number decreased by 5. Well, the opposite of a number we show with a negative. So that would be negative n decreased by 5. Again, that's subtraction when you decrease something. So that would be negative n minus 5. Next we have the sum of the opposite of a number and negative 5. So that means we have negative n, and it says sum, so that means plus a negative 5. Remember that when you add a negative, that's also the same as subtracting. So this could also be written as negative n minus 5. Those are the same thing. All right, then we have the product of twice a number and 8. Well, product means multiplication. So I have twice a number times 8. So 2n shows twice a number, the product times 8. In your book, this is written with parentheses and 8 on the outside. Okay, those all mean the same thing. Then we have the sum of twice a number and negative 5. The sum of twice a number and negative 5. So if I have twice a number, I have 2n. Then it says the sum, so that means I'm adding. Well, I'm adding negative 5. So I could leave it like this, or I could have 2n. When I add a negative, that's the same as subtraction, 2n minus 5. Either way, you'll get the same answer. It means the same thing. Then I have 5 times the sum of twice a number and negative 5. Okay, so here I have the same expression as before, but I added a little something. 5 times the sum of twice a number and negative 5. Well, I already know that this is twice a number and negative 5. Well, I have 5 times this expression. It's not 5 times twice a number. It's 5 times the sum. So that means this is the sum here. Whatever this answer is, that's the sum. I want 5 times this sum. I want 5 times this answer. So I have to do this times 5. Okay? Not 5 times 2n. It's 5 times the whole thing because you're multiplying 5 times the sum, 5 times the answer. All right, then I have 6 times the sum of twice the opposite of a number and negative 8. Whew, okay, that's a big one. Let's work through this. 6 times the sum of. Okay, so whatever I'm multiplying by 6, it's the answer to an addition problem. The sum is twice the opposite of a number and negative 8. So that means I'm finding 2 times the opposite of a number, and I'm adding it to negative 8. That's my sum. All right, and then I'm finding 6 times that sum. So I have to enclose this in brackets because this comes first. Then I multiply 6 by that answer. Okay? Whenever you multiply something by the answer, you have to enclose that expression so you know that you have to find that first, then you multiply it. All right, just 3 more before we do your practice. The product of 7 and the sum of a number and 10. So I'm finding 7 times the sum of a number and 10. And the sum of a number and 10 is shown by n plus 10. That's your sum. And this needs to be multiplied then by 7. All right, 2 more. The sum of 3 times a number and -4 multiplied by 5. So I have the sum of 3 times a number and -4 first. So I have 3 times a number and a -4. That's my sum. All right, then it says that I'm finding the product, or excuse me, I'm multiplying this by 5. So I enclose that in parentheses and multiply it by 5. All right, 1 more. The sum of -10 and 6 times the opposite of a number. So I start out with my -10, and I know that I'm adding that to 6 times the opposite of a number. That's my sum. Okay, you also can write 6 times the opposite of a number like this, -6n. Okay, you can put that on the inside with the negative on the outside. So you could write that either way. Okay, go ahead and pause now and do your practice. How'd it go? All right, let's walk through it. Letter A, 5 times the sum of 3 times a number and -5. So your sum, I want to write these on the board for you to make sure that you get them. Okay, so it says 5 times the sum of 3 times a number and -5. So your sum, what you're adding, is 3 times a number and -5. It says 5 times this sum. So we enclose this in parentheses and multiply it by 5. So that's what you should have for letter A. If you have 3n minus 5 in your parentheses, that's the same thing. Letter B, the product of 3 and the sum of a number and -50. So it's 3 times the sum of a number and -50. So n plus -50, that's your sum. Then we enclose that in parentheses because we're multiplying that by 3. Okay? If you have n minus 50 in your parentheses, again, that's the same thing. All right, letter C, the sum of 5 times a number and -13. Okay, so we have 5 times a number, 5n, plus a -13. Or you could have 5n minus 13, it's the same thing. All right, last one. 3 times the sum of the opposite of a number and -7. So I have 3 times the sum of something. Well, let's first work on what the sum is. The opposite of a number and -7. So I have the opposite of a number, that would be -n, plus -7. That's my sum. Well, I have 3 times this sum. I'm going to go ahead and close it in brackets because I have a lot of parentheses already. So I have 3 times this sum. So I'll put 3 in front, showing that once I add this together, I multiply that answer by 3. How'd you do? Was it confusing or did you get it? Let me know if you need any extra help with this concept, okay? That's it for this part of the lesson. Go ahead and do your practice. Make sure you check everywhere that you can. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. I love you very much. Bye.